Rumors have been swirling about the demise of Hollywood Ride Rockit for a while, so today we're going to do something a little different. We're going to take my wish list video format and apply it to one attraction. So assuming the rumors are true and Hollywood Ride Rockit closes in the next year or two, what would I want to see replace it? That's what we're going to dig into today. Universal Studios Florida is by far the weakest park at Universal Orlando, and I can say that before Epic Universe even opens, because we just know that park's going to be a grand slam. When I visited Universal Orlando, it was shocking to me how much better Islands of Adventure was than the park that bears the studio's name. It's kind of embarrassing, honestly. Like, walking around Universal Florida, I got like Disney Springs vibes, which is kind of sad. The park's not great in my opinion, and it could use a lot of improvement. Like, that park is getting carried by Diagon Alley right now. Hollywood Ride Rockit has a lot of flaws, but honestly, it might have been my second favorite attraction at that park. It has a couple solid moments of airtime, especially like the non-inverting loop was really interesting, like twisted airtime. And of course you have drops off of all of those mid-course brake runs, which usually give solid airtime, especially in the back row. So obviously if you get rid of the attraction, you would be losing those airtime moments. So what can we add to replace an existing attraction that will really bolster Universal Florida? I've came up with 5 ideas, so let's dig into those right now. At number 5, this is by far my least favorite idea, is a family coaster themed to the Minions. So Universal Florida, for some reason, decided that their entrance plaza is going to be themed to Despicable Me. They have Minion Mayhem on the left-hand side, and they just opened that shooting attraction on the right-hand side, which I've heard is pretty lame, so sounds right. If they want to continue with this direction, which I really think they shouldn't, they can bolster this land with an attraction themed to the Minions that's like a physical roller coaster. You could build like the Super Silly Funland attraction that was in the first Despicable Me movie. It would probably be more family friendly because Despicable Me is like a family franchise that Universal is milking for all that it's worth. So they would want to have a Despicable Me roller coaster that pretty much anybody can ride. So I'd imagine something like on the scale of Hagrid's without like the theming or the surprises that Hagrid's has, but probably with a lift hill, because Super Silly Funland is supposed to be like a cheesy carnival, and like one of those fair attractions would have a lift hill, not a launch, like a majority of Universal roller coasters do. So once again, this is my least favorite idea, but if they want to cement the Minions theme for the entrance of the park, which feels really wrong in my opinion, they can for sure go through with that. So let's talk about some interesting ideas now. At number 4, we have a vertical lift coaster. So there's a couple different options you can go with this. You can go with a Gerstlauer Infinity coaster, something like Hang Time at Knott's Berry Farm. That could be super interesting. Gerstlauer hasn't really proven themselves to be like a manufacturer worthy of an attraction at a Disney or Universal park. Like, Hang Time is one of their highest profile attractions at a park that's year round, and I know Knott's Berry Farm has a lot of problems, but Hang Time is not a great capacity attraction. It has also gotten pretty shaky over the few years that it's been open. On top of that, it was closed for like nearly a year because of a problem with the lift motor. You combine all those aspects and it doesn't look great for Gerstlauer, so I don't think Universal would go to them. You also have All Reliable for Universal, which is Intamin. They recently came out with a proposal for a vertical launch coaster, so that could be really cool. Obviously, any vertical lift attraction would pay homage to Hollywood Ride Rockit. And from a marketing perspective, it might not be the best idea because a lot of people would just be like, what did they do to Ride Rockit? Why is it a different color? Why does it look different, you know? So probably not the option that they are going to go with, but it's still something interesting. I'm sure Gerstlauer or Intamin would come up with a really fun layout. Even if they had to include a bunch of mid-course brake runs, it would still be way better manufactured than what Maurer gave them. Moving on up to number 3. This is probably another pretty unrealistic idea, but this is just a pipe dream as a roller coaster enthusiast. It would be some sort of hypercoaster. To be more specific, a Mack Rides hypercoaster. So obviously Universal is working with Mack for Stardust Racers, and I am so excited for that roller coaster. roller coasters, I guess. Those look like they're going to be so much fun, and I hope that Mock Rides is working well with Universal so they can get more projects with Universal. And if they get the replacement for Hollywood Rip Ride Rockit, I'm sure they would hit a home run with it, because they're one of my favorite manufacturers. I absolutely love Mock Rides. And if you look at a ride like Hyperia, it looks like they could fit a hypercoaster onto a pretty small piece of land that would be very crowd pleasing and interesting, unlike Sky Rush at Hershey Park, which is Intamin's hypercoaster that they tried to cram on a tiny piece of land that was pretty controversial, so much so that Hershey Park had to buy new trains for the thing. So I'm sure Mock Rides could do it, but the question is, would Universal want this land to be occupied by a hypercoaster? As it stands today, Hollywood Rip Ride Rockit is 167 feet tall, which is only like 33 feet short of hypercoaster heights. So would it be that much of a stretch to build an attraction that's only like 40 feet taller than Rip Ride Rockit? I don't know. Hollywood Rip Ride Rockit does kind of impede the sightlines of Islands of Adventure, so if that is a concern for Universal, then the answer would be definitely not. If they do replace Rip Ride Rockit, it would be with something that's shorter than Rip Ride Rockit, and obviously a hypercoaster is not, so the answer would be no. But just from like an excitement perspective, from a spoiled coaster enthusiast perspective, a hypercoaster would be absolutely amazing at a Universal park, especially if it was done by Mock Rides, because I love that company. Another possibility could be a B&M hyper, because one of the proposals for the original Rip Ride Rockit was a B&M hyper similar to the one at Universal Japan. So it could kind of bring the thing full circle if Universal went back to B&M to build the attraction that they should have built in the first place, because they totally should have gone with the proven manufacturer instead of Mauer. And of course, if you know me, you know that I love B&M hypers. They're absolutely spectacular. The thing is that Orlando already has a B&M hyper with Mako at SeaWorld, so I don't think that Universal would want to build a ride just like one at SeaWorld. Plus, Mock Rides doesn't have a hypercoaster in the United States, so it would be totally different from everything else in the country, and I'm sure Mock Rides would come up with a much more creative layout with B&M. No offense to B&M, I love B&M. Diamondback is literally my favorite roller coaster of all time. So either one would be really exciting, but I feel like Universal would go with Mock Rides, despite B&M's better reliability and better capacity. But again, the concept of a hypercoaster at a Universal park is totally like a pipe dream, so we'll see if it ever happens. The answer is no. Moving on to number 2. This is another like personal pipe dream. It's a Mock Rides Extreme Spinner. As I just mentioned, I love Mock Rides. Time Traveler is an absolutely amazing roller coaster. I absolutely love that ride. To see a ride with a layout as creative as Time Traveler at a Universal park would be absolutely amazing, because you know Universal would theme it well, and it would just be an elite roller coaster. Could you imagine living in a world where all 3 parks at the Universal Orlando Resort are spearheaded by an attraction that's just spectacular? Like, obviously Islands of Adventure has Velocicoaster, which is highly regarded as one of the best roller coasters of all time. Epic Universe is going to have Stardust Racers, which has the most potential for any roller coaster I've seen for a long time, maybe since Steel Vengeance. Honestly, that's kind of out there, but I kind of believe that. And to see an Extreme Spinner at Universal Florida would just be spectacular. Like, those 3 rides spearheading those 3 parks would just be amazing. It would be incredible. I'm sure some people, like some Universal executives, could make the argument that a Mock Rides Extreme Spinner would be too similar to both Stardust Racers and Curse of the Werewolf, which are both at Epic Universe. Like, it would just basically be a combination of those 2 rides. But honestly, the Extreme Spinner feels different from any other spinning ride that I've ever been on. Like, on most spinning coasters, even a ride as good as Sierra Sidewinder still uses the spinning as kind of a gimmick. The spinning on Time Traveler is not a gimmick at all. Like, that is a high quality layout. If you take off the spinning trains on Time Traveler, you still have a spectacular roller coaster, but the spinning just adds a completely different dynamic. So it would feel very different from Stardust Racers, and it would, of course, it would feel different from Curse of the Werewolf, because it would be on a completely different scale. phenomenal. Like, going upside down while spinning is just a sensation that you have to feel to believe. So go out and ride Time Traveler if you haven't already, or if you're in Europe or you're able to get to Europe, go ride Ride to Happiness. That ride looks amazing. To see a ride like that at Universal Orlando would be incredible. It would be amazing. But my number one idea for a Hollywood Ride Rockit replacement would be a spinning roller coaster just like Fast and Furious Hollywood Drift. This seems to be the leading candidate for a replacement to Ride Rockit, which could be really interesting. Obviously, at the time of this recording, Hollywood Drift has not opened yet. I'm interested to see how it is received. I'm interested to see how it compares to a Mock Ride's Extreme Spinner. But as of now, it seems hard to believe that that ride is going to be better than a ride like Time Traveler. I could very well be proven wrong, and honestly, I hope I'm proven wrong. I want that ride to be amazing because it's in Southern California, and I live in Southern California, so I want that ride to be as good as it possibly can be, and to see that brought over to Universal Orlando would be really cool. It would also be such a flex over Universal Hollywood if they finally got like an original roller coaster over here that Universal Orlando doesn't have, and then a few years later they build it anyway. That would honestly, that would be kind of hilarious. Like, Universal Orlando is in a different league compared to Universal Hollywood. That would just be really funny. So most of these ideas are absolutely a pipe dream from a roller coaster enthusiast perspective, but I hope one of them comes true, even if it is the most predictable answer, which would be the Intamin spinning coaster like Hollywood Drift. So before we wrap things up, let's talk about a couple themes. So obviously with the family coaster, I mentioned Minions. In theory, you could theme any of these attractions to Minions because it's right there. It's literally the themed area right next to the existing Ride Rockit. And of course, Hollywood Drift is a Fast and Furious roller coaster, so if they bring that ride system to Universal Orlando, it's gotta be a Fast and Furious coaster as well. And that would also give them a reason to get rid of Supercharged, which I know a lot of people want them to do. But a couple other ideas include Ghostbusters and Back to the Future. I love Back to the Future, so I would really love to see a roller coaster dedicated to that franchise in particular. If Universal wants to build a ride specifically for me, just take a Mock Ride's Extreme Spinner and theme it to Back to the Future. Like, the existing Mock Ride's Extreme Spinner in this country right now is literally called Time Traveler. So just take that ride system, theme it to Back to the Future, and I will live at that park. Just like that concept alone might put it as my favorite roller coaster of all time, you know? Like, one of my favorite roller coaster types themed to my favorite movie. I'm sold. I'll be there. So what do you think about the ideas I talked about in this video? Do you have any ideas of your own? Did I miss anything that I should have brought up? Please let me know in the comments below. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will catch you later.